So the story is that, the band want to do something completely different for their 10th album. They go to record at a house where a previous band, a fictional band, had descended into violent madness and had broken up due to musical differences, I think is the way
mass murder.
it would be reported in the press. And the house starts to influence Dave Grohl and carnage ensues. So, I mean, the marriage of rock stars and movies is as old as the hills. You think of, Elvis in Jailhouse Rock and King Creole in the 50s, and then Tommy Steele, Rock Around the World, Cliff Richard and Espresso Bongo, which of course actually really is the Tommy Steele story because it kind of came from the stage show. And the Beatles movies, which you talked about, and incidentally, what an extraordinary experience of watching Get Back. Unbelievable. Early 70s, when I was going to the cinema, Shwaddy Waddy and the Rubettes and Mud were in Never Too Young to Rock and Side by Side.
Didn't see that.
And then, Purple Rain, which Dave Grohl talked about, in which we learned that Prince can do a lot of things, but acting isn't one of them.
Yep. It's true.
And then, we reviewed the RZA's film, Man with the Iron Fist, so there are people who've been in music making. It is basically a really, really common thing. What's more common is the fact that there are genre movies with rock stars in. So, you mentioned The Ghost Goes Gear, which is horror comedy. There's also Gonks Go Beat, which is a science fiction movie with all those, those rock stars in. Space is the Place, which is the Sun Ra film, which is actually, I think, now kind of generally thought of as one of the high points of Afrofuturism. And it's a really interesting film, but it is kind of, the classic Afrofuturist film is Sun Ra, Space is the Place. And then there's films like The Comeback, which is a horror movie starring Jack Jones, Jack Jones was an actor and a singer, but I remember seeing it on television.
A trade union leader as well.
That's right, yeah. I remember seeing it on television.
Good skill set.
And watching it, very good. And watching it and thinking, I don't know what this movie is. I turned on after the beginning. I didn't realise it was a horror movie. I just recognised it was this entertainer. And then suddenly it all gets very, very, stabby.
I don't really know anything about Afrofuturism, by the way.
If you get a chance, watch Space is the Place. It's a remarkable piece of work. I mean, it's really, really interesting. But the point I'm making is that the genre crossover with rock stars and rock bands is also it's quite common. That's why Ghost Goes Gear is interesting, and that's why Gonks Go Beat is interesting. I mean, they're also classically bad films. So in the case of this, it's not doing anything that's new. And it's also worth pointing out that I don't think the band will be giving up their day jobs for acting anytime soon. I mean, it's not like Art Garfunkel, who, when you see Art Garfunkel acting, you go, okay, well, he's a brilliant singer, but he's also, he could easily just be an actor. He's fantastic in Bad Timing, for example. It is kind of fun. The director is the guy who made Hatchet 3, and there's if you were the editor of Fangoria magazine, you'd watch this and go, well, that's at least a 6-page spread, because there is enough sort of scrungy stuff going on. I mean, one of the issues is some of the scrungier, rubbery stuff felt a little CG to me. It's not completely old school scrunge, but there is an awful lot of scrunge in it. And you mentioned at the very, very beginning, it's clear that that's the way that it's tipping. In fact, I got the BBFC certificate details up, and I'm not even going to read them out because
is it 15 or
it's an 18?
It's 18, okay.
Yeah, and when you read the thing, you go, oh yeah, okay, fine. Although one of the fascinating things about it is it's perfectly innocuous scrunge, because it's knockabout, in the same way as Sam Raimi talked about The Evil Dead basically being the Three Stooges with offal standing in for custard pies. And there's nothing in the movie that's frightening, and there's nothing in the movie that's revolting. There's plenty that's scrungy, but it's all sort of knockabout comedy stuff. The John Carpenter thing is interesting, because the minute you hear that theme tune, you go, that's either John Carpenter or it's somebody doing a very good... Oh, no, it is John Carpenter, and then John Carpenter actually appears in the thing. I think the Will Forte's The Delivery Guy scene is very funny. I think the Coldplay gag is funny.
The Lionel Richie
T-biscuit is a great gag. And then not only is it a great gag, which, let's not spoil it, but he does it really well. I mean, he's sort of, he's obviously very game. I think that if I have an issue, in an ideal world, this would be 82 minutes long.
Oh, absolutely no question. Which goes back to what we talked about here before, being precisely that length. You think, and this is an hour and 45. I think
106 minutes. It's 106 minutes.
Doesn't need.
Yeah, so you could lop half an hour off this very, very easily. at times, do you remember Bloodbath at the House of Death?
Now, what do you think the answer to that is?
Well, you might do, because it was a Kenny Everett movie.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
It was Kenny Everett and Vincent Price, and I think...
Sounds like the kind of thing that Roy Castle would turn up in.
Yes, well, of course, Roy Castle did turn up in Andy. Fine, okay. So, but it was slappy and not very good. And this is kind of because it's put together professionally, and because there is a lot of scrunge in it. You go, okay, fine. If it was a half an hour shorter, it would be okay, fine. Slap it on the DVD, put it on stream, and that'll be fun. So it's half an hour too long. I was also thinking, weirdly enough, when I was watching it, about the way that times have changed. If that film had been made around the time of the Video Nasties, it would have been so banned. It would have been
so banned?
So banned. Like, literally, they would have stood up at Snaresbrook Crown Court and they would have read out the list of things that happened in it.
Yes.
Exactly, 9 o'clock in the morning, and a magistrate would have gone, yeah, that's absolutely going on the nasties list. So it was a kind of weird sort of nostalgic thing for me watching it, thinking, well, times have really, really changed.
There's also one I was going to talk about. We ran out of time in the conversation, but he mentions in the film that the drummer is the guy who doesn't want to learn any of the words.
Yeah, no surprise there.
But there's a scene where he's just trying to get his drum placement right.
Yes,
which is so fussy and pernickety. It makes you and your microphone obsession appear quite even-handed. Where I just thought, I bet he is a little bit like that.
And but it is a funny gag, because it's like, and he gets it moving, then bang, just a little bit, but he won't touch the drums. It's the roadie is the guy who has to do it.
And that roadie, I mean, I only learnt this because for the research for the interview. That roadie is the guitarist out of Slayer.
Oh, okay, fine.
Who doesn't last long in the film. He's the first to go, I think.
Yeah, so the BBFC thing says strong bloody violence and gore. And then if you go onto the ratings info, which may contain spoilers, it's like, you go, honestly, if it had been the 1980s and you'd read that out, you would have gone, yeah, that won't see the light of day. So, the world has changed for the better.
Anyway, that's Studio 666.